He walked into the Luxe Screenhouse like any other moviegoer, his tall frame and unassuming demeanor blending effortlessly into the bustling crowd. But what happened next left the staff and their sharp-eyed manager reeling. When the truth about his identity was revealed, the fallout wasn't just shocking, it was unforgettable. Nestled in the heart of Manhattan, the Luxe Screenhouse wasn't just any cinema, it was the cinema. Draped in opulence and frequented by the city's elite, it was a place where films were experienced, not merely watched. The crimson carpets, ornate chandeliers, and private viewing lounges whispered exclusivity to all who entered. Tickets weren't just pricey. They were an unspoken declaration that you belonged to a world of refinement and luxury. At the helm of this glitzy domain was Sandra, the cinema's manager. Known for her polished demeanor and hawk-like attention to detail, Sandra was relentless in her pursuit of perfection. Her mantra was simple: protect the brand. To her, this meant ensuring every guest felt pampered and every experience gleamed with luxury. But it also meant maintaining the kind of exclusivity that came with certain unspoken rules. Presentation is everything, Sandra often reminded her team, and not everyone is fit to enjoy this level of luxury. It was an unusually busy Friday evening when the story unfolded. The theater hummed with activity, patrons dressed to impress lined up for artisanal popcorn and glasses of Dom Perignon. Sandra, perched at her post near the main entrance, kept a watchful eye over the flow of the crowd, her sharp eyes darting to anything or anyone that seemed even slightly out of place. That's when he walked in. Tall, slender, and dressed in a simple hoodie and jeans, the teenager strolled casually through the grand entrance. His blonde hair swept slightly to the side and his headphones dangled around his neck. There was an ease about him, a quiet confidence that seemed at odds with his laid-back appearance. To Sandra, he didn't seem like the typical Luxe patron. Her instincts flared. "Who is this kid, and what is he doing here?" she thought as her eyes narrowed. Sandra stepped forward, her black pumps clicking sharply against the polished marble floor. "Excuse me," she said, her voice honeyed but firm. "Can I help you?" The teenager looked up, his calm blue eyes meeting hers. "I just want to see a movie," he said, his tone casual and polite. Sandra's practiced smile didn't falter. "I'm sorry, but our screenings are by reservation only. Do you have a ticket?" He reached into his pocket, pulling out a crumpled piece of paper. It was a general admission ticket for a mainstream blockbuster that Sandra had dismissed as too commercial for the Luxe experience. The paper felt almost out of place in this haven of luxury, where digital memberships and black cards reigned supreme. Sandra's smile tightened. "I'm afraid this ticket isn't valid here," she said, her tone growing firmer. "This is a private screening venue, not a standard cinema. You'll need to book through our exclusive platform." The boy tilted his head slightly as if weighing her words, but didn't argue. "Got it," he said simply, slipping the ticket back into his pocket. He turned to leave, his movements calm and measured. Sandra watched him go, her chest puffing slightly with satisfaction. She had maintained the sanctity of the Luxe Screenhouse, as she always did. Yet as the evening wore on, something about the boy lingered in her mind. It wasn't just his striking presence or calm demeanor, it was the sense that she had somehow misjudged him. The next day, everything changed. Sandra arrived early to oversee the morning preparations when her assistant manager, Lila, rushed up to her, phone in hand. "Sandra, you're not going to believe this," Lila said breathlessly. "What is it?" Sandra asked, her tone clipped. Lila handed over her phone, the screen displaying a viral post on social media. A blurry photo captured the boy from the night before, walking out of the Luxe's grand entrance. The caption read, "When Barron Trump wants to catch a movie but gets turned away from Manhattan's most exclusive theater." Sandra's heart dropped. "That was him," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," Lila said, her tone a mix of excitement and horror. "It's all over social media. People are saying the Luxe is snobby and out of touch. Some are even calling for boycotts." Sandra felt the blood drain from her face. She had turned away Barron Trump, the youngest son of a former U.S. president, and now the entire internet knew. By midday, the Luxe Screenhouse was the epicenter of a media storm. Reporters camped outside, customers flooded their social media accounts with comments, and employees whispered nervously in the hallways. Sandra tried to maintain her composure, but the weight of her actions pressed heavily on her shoulders. Then came the moment she dreaded most. The grand doors of the cinema swung open, and there he was, Barron Trump, flanked by a small entourage. He walked in with the same quiet confidence as before, his gaze scanning the room until it landed on Sandra. The staff froze. Customers turned to watch, their whispers creating a low hum of tension. Sandra felt her pulse quicken as Barron approached her. "Good afternoon," he said, his tone polite but firm. "I'd like to see a movie. Is that allowed?" Sandra swallowed hard, her usual poise slipping. "Of course, Mr. Trump," she said quickly, her voice trembling slightly. "Please, allow me to personally arrange your screening." Barron studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Thank you," he said simply. As Sandra rushed to accommodate him, she couldn't shake the feeling that this moment would define her career. What followed was a lesson she would never forget, one about humility, kindness, and the danger of assumptions. The Luxe Screenhouse would recover its reputation in the weeks to come, but for Sandra, the incident left an indelible mark. She vowed to lead with grace and understanding, ensuring that every guest, no matter who they were or what they looked like, felt welcome in the world of luxury cinema. The Luxe Screenhouse was abuzz with activity, not just from the usual Friday night crowd, but now from the media and curious onlookers eager for a glimpse of what had become an unexpected saga. Sandra, having learned her lesson, personally escorted Barron to one of the plush, velvet-draped screening rooms. She chose one of the latest indie films, a poignant story that seemed to match Barron's quiet demeanor. As the lights dimmed, Sandra stayed at the back of the room, her mind racing with thoughts of how to salvage the situation. She knew word of this visit would spread, and it had to be positive. After the movie, Barron emerged, his expression thoughtful as he thanked Sandra. "It was a good film," he commented, his voice carrying a note of sincerity that made Sandra feel a pang of regret for her earlier judgment. Sandra, seizing the moment, proposed an idea. "Mr. Trump, we are hosting a special charity event next week for underprivileged youth to experience cinema here at Luxe Screenhouse. Would you consider being our guest of honor?" Barron considered this for a moment. "I'd like that," he responded, his acceptance not only surprising, but also a beacon of hope for Sandra's redemption arc. The event was planned meticulously. Sandra, with her team, transformed the cinema into a more welcoming space, less about opulence and more about sharing the joy of cinema. They invited local schools, made arrangements for transportation, and ensured that the screening was of a family-friendly film that would resonate with the young audience. On the day of the event, the cinema buzzed with excitement. Children from various backgrounds, many experiencing such luxury for the first time, filled the theaters with laughter and awe. Barron arrived not with an entourage, but with a small group from his own foundation, ready to interact and share moments with the kids. The event went beyond expectations. Barron, with his tall stature, became a figure of inspiration rather than celebrity. He discussed his love for films, shared stories, and even participated in a Q&A session after the movie. The media coverage was overwhelmingly positive. Headlines changed from "snobbery at Luxe" to "Luxe Screenhouse opens its doors to all." Sandra found herself featured in articles not for her stringent gatekeeping, but for her transformative leadership. In the aftermath, the Luxe Screenhouse introduced new policies. They established a community outreach program, regular discounted nights for students and local residents, and a more transparent ticket booking system that didn't ostracize anyone based on appearance or background. Sandra's journey from a guardian of exclusivity to a champion of inclusivity was complete. She had learned that luxury could also mean inclusivity, and that true refinement was in how one treats others. The incident with Barron Trump, initially a moment of public shaming, became the catalyst for a new era at the Luxe Screenhouse, one where everyone could feel like they belonged, no matter their ticket or attire. And in the quiet corners of the cinema, amidst the laughter and the glow of the screen, Sandra realized that sometimes the most unforgettable stories are those of redemption and change. As the weeks turned into months, the Luxe Screenhouse thrived under its new ethos of inclusivity. The charity event with Barron Trump had not only reshaped Sandra's approach, but also transformed the cinema's image in the public eye. The Luxe Screenhouse was no longer just a sanctuary for the elite. It had become a cultural hub where people from all walks of life could converge. Sandra, now a media darling for her turnaround, began a series of initiatives to keep the momentum going. She launched Cinema for All, a program where local artists could screen their independent films at a minimal cost, providing a platform for new talent. The cinema also started hosting community discussions post-screenings, turning movie nights into events that fostered dialogue and understanding. One evening, during one of these discussions, Sandra stood at the podium, reflecting on the changes. Cinema is not just about watching films. It's about experiences, connections, and stories that resonate with everyone, she said, her voice echoing through the opulent, yet now more welcoming hall. The crowd responded with applause, a mix of longtime patrons and new faces, all there for the love of cinema. Barron Trump, who had kept in touch with Sandra, returned for one of these events. This time, he wasn't there as a guest of honor, but as a participant in a panel discussing the impact of media on youth. His presence was a symbol of the new Luxe Screenhouse, accessible, engaging, and inclusive. The panel discussion was lively, touching on how films could shape societal views and inspire change. Barron shared insights from his own life, how movies had been an escape and a window to different worlds. His words struck a chord with the audience, particularly with young attendees who saw in him a relatable figure, not just the son of a former president. Inspired by the event's success, Sandra decided to take the Luxe Screenhouse's transformation one step further. She proposed a partnership with local schools to create a film education program, teaching students not just about film appreciation, but also filmmaking basics. This initiative would provide equipment, mentorship, and screenings, culminating in an annual student film festival hosted at the Luxe. The first year of the program saw an overwhelming response. Students from across Manhattan brought their unique stories to life, with themes ranging from social justice to personal identity. The festival night was electric, with the cinema's grand chandeliers lighting up the faces of proud parents, teachers, and peers as they watched the fruits of their labor on the big screen. Sandra, watching from the wings, felt a profound sense of achievement. She had not only saved her career, but had also created a legacy. The Luxe Screenhouse was no longer just Sandra's domain. It was a community's treasure, a place where every story could find its audience. Years later, when asked about her most significant achievement, Sandra would always mention that night when she turned away a young man in a hoodie, not knowing who he was, and how that moment led to the most beautiful transformation of her life and the cinema she loved. The Luxe Screenhouse had become a narrative of change, resilience, and the power of cinema to unite, educate, and inspire. Under the stars of Manhattan's night sky, it stood as a beacon of what luxury could truly mean. Not exclusivity, but the luxury of belonging, of sharing, and of evolving together.